Hello, my name's Olurotimi Osha. Today I'm finally going to be discussing the movie The Recruit. It's a 2003 movie starring Al Pacino as the veteran CIA instructor and Colin Farrell as the CIA recruit. It was an original screenplay written by Roger Town. He's late now, and Kurt Zimmer, and Mitch Glazer. In any event, I enjoyed the movie, and I think it's particularly interesting and appropriate right now because of the scandal regarding David J. Rush, the guy who, CIA Senior Executive Service, who apparently fabricated his college transcripts, his military service, everything, his whole background's fabricated. Uh, but he was just recently arrested last month, May 19th, 2026, and he's under arrest. He's still being detained. The U.S. District Court in the Eastern Virginia. Um, right now, he's charged with theft of government property. Yes, he absconded with 331 kilogram gold bars valued at $40 million. He had $2 million in cash, all in his home, and they found 35 luxury wristwatches, most of them Rolexes, and of course Rolexes cost between $10,000 to $60,000 a pop. Um, so it's interesting. How did this guy get into the most rigorous vetting system in the United States of any agency? The CIA has a very thorough, rigorous vetting system. Obviously, former CIA officers like Tracy Walder, she's an ex-CIA and ex-FBI agent. She's had dual careers. She said that he had inside help, that there was that people he has co-conspirators. Two people have already been flagged that were, they might have been unwitting collaborators, but there's a lot going on. This guy not only made it to the highest level um, of the CIA as a member of the Senior Executive Service. That's the highest. They're the highest officials in the U.S. Federal Civil Service, right? They're mapped equivalent to generals. He was actually on President Trump's Intelligence Advisory Board with the current Deputy Secretary of Defense Stephen Feinberg, who is a billionaire, and but that is not to say that the guy promoted his career in any way. But investigations are still going on and things are unraveling. Now, I wonder if one defense that his attorney might come up with is um, that all of this was part of a fake program, a test by the CIA, right, to see if this guy, to see if the CIA can be penetrated. That it was all part of a test program. And this is what we see happening in the movie The Recruit. I found it very interesting. The Recruits, so there was always this like um, charade of smoke and mirrors, right? Smoke and mirrors, they get the rug pulled from under them, only for there to be another rug that's pulled from under that rug, and it keeps going on and on and on. So they have this cascade of, tests that keep unraveling every new, so it's like they're just going around to circuitous um, escapade, that's just never ending, and you don't, everybody ends up being confused, and I guess that's why many people don't weren't fans of the movie The Recruit. I was a fan of it. I thought it was clear, it was straightforward. I could understand it. But let me, enough said. Let me get into the story and try and keep it as short as possible. But it's an interesting movie. If you can get to see it, of course, it's available. Um, in this age of streaming. So the movie starts off with, but let me quickly say something that's significant that um, is a relevant parallel to the David Rush thing. So at some point, uh, Al Pacino's character, Burke, who is the CIA instructor, he discloses to what's his name, Colin Farrell's character, named James Clayton, right? He says to him that, well, he is a knock. They've made him a knock, and his task is to um, really monitor, right? Monitor and catch, obtain evidence against um a love interest of Colin Farrell, right? Her name's Kayla Moore in the movie, right? I think her real name's Bridget Moynihan. She used to be a former model, but anyway, so that he's supposed to get intel on her, smoke out her controllers, right? Her controllers, her handlers, because he says she's not who she really says she is, and the CIA let her in because she's actually really got a fake background. Her background, that's not her real name. Her background's fake. Her parents are Algerian, were Algerians or stuff. She was born they were born somewhere else, and all that stuff. And she infiltrated the CIA, and they know that the CIA knows that, and they're hiring her anyway because they know she's a mole, and they're trying to get who her handlers are, so she can help them smoke them out, right? They could just, figure out which foreign government is paying her and all that. And she has all these fake bank accounts and all that stuff that's getting in money from somewhere, and they're trying to smoke them out. And that's the goal. There's something else that's very important about this movie. So when Al Pacino is revealing all of this to Colin Farrell, he talks about this book written by is it Kurt Vonnegut? Kurt Vonnegut, I think is his name. Cat's Cradle, and it's got this material called Ice 9. And Ice 9 is a material it's a dangerous material that when it touches water, right? When it touches water, it freezes up, right? And it basically freezes up all water that it touches, and it ends up making the whole world like glacier, and it's destroyed because water all over the world is frozen. And so the CIA created this program, this computer virus, and they named it after this novel, right? Ice 9, right? It's called Ice 9. It's a virus, and it's supposed to be able to infect the electric grid, right, from a computer. Of course, because computers are powered through electricity, but this Ice 9 is a virus. Once it's on the computer, it can actually it can infect all the electrical grid systems globally, and bring it to a grind. Just destroy the electrical grid all over the world, right? It's got this destructive force, and people are trying to steal it, right? That's Layla Moore. Her job is to try and steal it from the CIA. That's what she's trying to do. So that's the task that Burke gives this person. So you see, that's a fake. It's a fake program. They bring her in, pass her through the vetting system. That's Kayla Moore. Even though they know she's a mole, right? They know she's working for somebody else. This is how the CIA GS-15 Burke explains it to Colin Farrell's character, who is James Clayton. He's just a recruit, so he explains it to her that, look, the CIA brought her in. They know she's a mole, and they put her in the Directorate of Science and Technology, the same place this guy was a leader in. That's David Rush, the real crook, right, who infiltrated the CIA, and he's been there for the past 20 years. Now, so back to the movie. So they put her in the Directorate of Science and Technology, and so just note that's one of the fake programs, dummy programs, tests that the CIA is running, right? So now let's go back to the beginning of the movie. So the movie starts off with Al Pacino's character, his name's Burke. He recruits Colin Farrell, who's working as a bartender. But even though he's just graduated from MIT, he's a computer scientist. He created this great program that the CIA is interested in called Sparta, because Dell was interested in it. But what's his name is interested in recruiting him. That's Al Pacino is interested in recruiting Colin Farrell. I think I should just use the names of the characters in the in the book. So Burke is interested in recruiting Clayton, and the hook that Burke uses is Clayton's dad. So Clayton's dad died when he was young. Everybody had thought he was an oil executive at Shell. He worked in Peru, but he secretly believed that he was CIA, right? And the Shell executive thing was his cover, right? And so Burke brings up the name because the CIA, of course, they know everything about everybody they want to recruit. They know about his history, his background. So he brings up um, uh, Clayton's dad as bait, and Clayton is interested, and he tells him he knows he knew Clayton's dad, and he tells him Clayton's dad was CIA. So it gets Clayton interested, and of course he wants to do the job his dad did. His dad was a knock was a so a knock is non official cover. I've done a video discussing that, right? So they don't have official cover, they don't have diplomatic immunity, they're not like the other spies. Of course, we know espionage is illegal. They're not like the other spies who work out of an embassy who have diplomatic immunity, right? But a knock is they have a fake job, might be posing as a business executive, and there's plausible deniability with the U.S. federal government. They basically deny any relationship with the NOC, right? That's non-official cover, even though they're really CIA. But because espionage is illegal, the U.S. government denies them, right? So, and that's what Clayton is being recruited for. So all of them go over to the farm. The farm is where recruits are trained by the CIA. The new recruits are trained by the CIA. It's very rigorous. They take them through all these different scenarios of role play. They teach them how to shoot, how to fight, how to get out of a car wreck, how to get into a car wreck, how to drive dangerously, all these things, different role plays and everything. And this guy is doing very well. Clayton's doing very well. He has a rival, a white guy, and everybody in there basically is white, I guess. But Zach, and he then develops this interest in this female, and that's Kayla Moore, right? So he develops an interest in her, and of course Burke, who's he's an old timer, is a veteran. He realizes that he's interested in that Clayton has developed an interest in Layla Moore. So there a series of tests, right? Like when you're at the farm, they're testing them all the time. There was a time they're testing for different things, right? And it turns out that the weakness of Clayton ends up being Layla. He's developing, feelings for her, and when they're on a test, she's constantly tricking him. There was a time he met her at the bar. They were given there was a time they were given a mission, a task, right, to go and get females to go and get guys. Well, it was from a bar, and they had this mission. That was the objective, to lure people to come out with them, lure someone that they don't know to come out with them, get a female. That was their task. Some other people had a secret task, and he didn't know that. To be an obstacle to impede the recruit from being able to accomplish their goal. So, what's his name? Clayton. He's initially talking to a female who's interested. His task is to get her out, bring her into the car, right? To talk her, because the CIA, they train them on how to manipulate people, right? So his job was to manipulate someone, a female he didn't know, get her into the car, right? So initially, this person is interested. He's manipulating her, but he sees Layla, who looks sad. She's sitting off somewhere. So, but because he has an interest in Layla, right? He goes to meet Layla. He starts to talk to her, and then she tells him that that she's just been fired from, she's been cut. She didn't make the cut because when they take you to the farm, you're supposed to be, they're testing you, and you can still you can fail out, right? Most people who go through this farm, well, maybe 30% of them don't make it through, right? They quit or they fail their tests and everything because they're taking them through a variety of tests. So she told him, she was looking sad. She told him that she just failed out, she flunked and everything. So he now decides to call a cab for her. He's trying to console her, and because he's compassionate, he's a nice guy, he's compassionate, and he likes her, so he's sympathizing with her because she's lost, she's failed out of the program, she's leaving or something, she's leaving the next day. So he walks her out, calls a cab for her, he walks her out, and when they get out, she's like, she's showing, okay, task accomplished, and everybody, they beam the light on him. He didn't realize that she had her own task, and that was to distract him from getting his mission accomplished. So he almost flunked. So he was constantly, shooting himself in the foot, constantly falling short because of her, right? So this was repeatedly, she was always tricking him, right? So that was one instance that she tricked him. He had a task, he failed to meet his mission because he was showing compassion for her. Another time again, so at one time they went out, and then they were abducted. She and him, they went out on a date, and some people just abducted them, put them in a van, because they were outside, right? And they abducted them, put them in in a van, and had hoods over their heads, and then they isolated them. They started torturing him. They were torturing him anyway, so they were torturing him, and these people were saying, hey, tell us who you are, give us the names of the people who are training you and everything. So he's like, oh, it's a test. Of course he knows. It's like he knows it's a test, so he doesn't give them any names, but they're beating him for real, torturing him. They're using wires, electricity. They're shocking him. So he's like confused because they're like, man, why would the CIA really be torturing you, right, in a training program, right? But they're torturing him, beating him up. He's bloody. Like they're really torturing him physically, and they lock him up. The food is terrible. They, so he's like confused, but he's not giving up names because what they just want is give us names, tell us what goes on in the training program and all that stuff. He refuses. He's like, he knows it's a test, and they could just keep torturing him. But eventually, they now, because they separated him and the female, right? Him and Layla. So they now brought him a piece of cloth, right, her scarf or something, and it's smelling of urine, and they're like, okay, that she's pissing all over herself, excuse the graphic word, that she's, peeing all over herself or whatever, and so, and they throw it at him, and he smells it, so he believes them that, oh, she's, so he's feeling compassion for her as well, and he's feeling sorry for her even though he can't see her. Then immediately he starts to give names, right? He just shouts out Burke. He gives them a name, Burke, because he doesn't want them to torture her. As soon as he does that, the gates or whatever, the doors are open, lights. He didn't know he was actually being watched live. It was a live training. Others were watching. It was a test. She knew, he didn't know. So he failed, he flunked out. Immediately, they just wrote him his letter that effective immediately he's terminated from the program, right? And they send him back home. And he's crying, he's sad, he's drinking and all that. So he's miserable until Burke now shows up one day in his home. And Burke tells him, hey, that was just a cover, right? That was just a cover story they created, that he was beating everybody in the program. Right, that the whole idea of the farm is that everybody flunks out, everybody breaks at some point. The guy broke, that was what he was. He broke under torture, and he assumed that, okay, he'd flunked out because they gave him a termination letter, right, before the others. So it's like, look, everybody that the design of the farm, at the CIA farm where they're training you, is that everybody has a breaking point, and it's to push everybody until they actually break. So everybody breaks, but Burke reassured him that he had the best scores of everybody, that he lasted longest in the torture program. Everybody breaks down, right? In all the tests, everybody eventually breaks down. And they're like, well, they created a cover story because he's the knock, and they didn't want everybody, they didn't, that they don't let everybody else know what's going on, who's in, who's out. So so Burke told Clayton that he's the knock. He's a non-official cover. He made it through the CIA, but this is the situation. They don't want others to know. They created a cover story for him, like he failed out, and so that they're going to give him a low-level data entry job, right, in Langley, the CIA, not as a knock, right? That he's going to be working for the CIA, but in a low-level, insignificant job, data entry, and then that's when he now told Jason of his task, that look, the thing is that Layla is really a mole, right? She's infiltrated the CIA. They put her in Director of Science and Technology, and she's trying to steal ICE-9, right? And that she doesn't know that they're onto her, and so he says his job is to follow her, monitor her, and get evidence on her and all that stuff, and get the ICE-9 and all that. So this guy now makes it his mission, right? So he's following her, monitoring her, then he even starts to sleep with her, and eventually he sees that, yes, she's actually stealing this stuff out. She's stealing the program, the ICE-9. It's on her home computer, because he's a computer guru, right? He's a computer genius, so he knows how to hack into everything. So he hacks into her computer at home. He sees that, yes, she's actually stealing elements of the ICE-9. She's taking it in bits, and he relays this information back to Burke. So Burke has him tail her, right? So he's tailing her. That's Clayton. He's tailing Layla. Then he tails all the way to Union Station, which I recognized, right, in DC. And so she passes a note to someone, right? So he starts to follow the person, like he's trying to see, because he figures that, okay, that person is a foreign agent, is a foreign spy. So he follows, and then they get into a shootout in the train station. They're shooting. Then eventually he shoots the person. When he shoots the person, he kills him. He goes and he sees that it's actually Zach. It's Zach who was in the program, CIA recruiting program with them, and he grabs the note. The note just says that Clayton's getting too close, right? So he calls Burke, tells Burke that, hey, he meets up with Burke. He says, hey, that it was Zach, that he just killed Zach and all that stuff, And so in any event, he continues to follow Layla. He follows Layla. He catches up with Layla. He drives her off the road, right? She crashes, and he gets into her car, points a gun at her, and he's telling her, hey, that she's a mole, she's a foreign agent, she's a mole, blah blah blah. He figures out how she's getting the because in the CIA, in government agencies, you can't take a disk, a removable disk, or any removable drive, right? You can't insert it into government drives or computers and remove anything out, right? So he's trying to figure out how she's getting bits of that program, the I-9, out of Langley, out of the headquarters. So he figures it out. He's a smart guy. He figures it's through her mug. Like, she's got a coffee mug, right? And he keeps taking her. So he now asks her to unscrew the bottom of the coffee mug. So he figures that she's actually she's got a drive, right? And she sneaks it through, something that, that was built, the device. It's screwed into the bottom of her coffee mug, right? It's screwed into the bottom, and then she puts the device, the removable, I forgot the thumb drive, the removable thumb drive, and she sticks it in anyway on her computer, and she removes the program. She's been stealing the program, bits of the program, and then she passes it, and she passes through the CIA. So he sees that yes, she's really stealing. She was stealing this program, right? ICE 9. So he's like, hey, why did she become? But he loves her, so he's like, look, he's gonna let her get away. That he's gonna tell Burke that she ran away. He didn't want to kill her. He didn't want her to be arrested. And then she told him, no, 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 no. Hey, she's real CIA. This is a sanctioned CIA program. That it was the CIA that actually asked her. This is a mission. They wanted to test how porous their systems were, if they were fail safe, right? And they asked her that the mission, right? It's a CIA sanctioned mission. Her goal was to see if she can steal this program out of the CIA, out of Langley, without detection, right? And it worked, right? She was able to steal the program out of Langley without detection, despite all the detections devices, the guardrails they had to prevent infiltration and exfiltration or removing stuff, right? It still failed. So she was like, no, that this is how they do it in the CIA. That's the only way they can test the system to see if the preventive systems work, right? To actually create programs, missions intended to infiltrate and exfiltrate, to take out of the system. That's the only way they can see if it's fail safe, right? If it's fail proof or whatever, it's right. If it can prevent any exfiltration, any break in, right? So he's confused. He's confused at this point. He just tells her to go, right? He leaves. He takes it from her. He's confused, and then he hooks up with Burke. And then when Burke comes, he now tells Burke that, hey, that you played him. He tells Burke about all of it and all that stuff. And then he points a gun at Burke. He's pointing the gun at Burke. And Burke says, he's like, look, that Burke has been playing him. Because it's confusing, right? Like, hey, that what she told him is that she's CIA. And then she told him that, look, that Zach is actually, Zach is a knock. Zach was a knock. Zach is not a foreign agent that he just killed. So he's like, he just killed him. That the guy is he just killed Zach. But Layla's explaining to Clayton that no. Zach is actually CIA. He's not a foreign agent, and she's also CIA. So he's confused, and then he now accosts Burke, and then Burke now tells him that, hey, because he's pointing a gun at Burke, but Burke now tells him that it was all a test, that Zach is still alive, that it was blank bullets. And he reminds him that he's the one who gave him the pistol that he used to shoot Burke, right? Or that he used to shoot Zach, sorry. Which is true. It was Al Pacino, that's Burke, who provided Colin Farrell's character, that's Clayton, the pistol, which he uses to shoot Zach, whom he thinks is dead. But here is Al Pacino, that's Burke, now saying, no, he's not dead. They're blank bullets. That's why I gave you the gun. It wasn't your own pistol. I gave you the pistol. I loaded it with blank bullets, right? Test it. Just shoot it. See. Al Pacino is telling him, test it. You can see it's blank. Hey, Zach's not dead. It was all a test. We were just testing you. We wanted to see if you could accomplish this mission. It was a test. It's just one of the tests we designed, right? We were just testing you. So Colin Farrell clearly is confused now. So you see all the games the CIA plays, right? So I guess maybe David Rush, I'm going back to real life now, David Rush might come out and say, hey, it was just a program, a test run by the CIA. We're trying to see if we could get somebody can infiltrate the system and get gold out and all that stuff, get money, create fake programs. And it's just a test, CIA run test, right? Because that's what they're now telling Colin Farrell, and he's confused. So Burke is telling them, no, Zach's not dead. This was just a test, right? We were just testing you. And he tells him shoot. Then eventually Al Pacino hits his arm, and as he hit his arm, the gun discharged, right, and it shot, and it was a real bullet. It shoots off the windshield, and Clayton realizes that, hey, this guy is a traitor. It's a real. He gave him real bullets. He just killed Zach. This guy is a traitor. Burke is a traitor, and then he runs, and there Al Pacino is pursuing him, chasing him, and of course Al Pacino gets into this tirade, starts telling him, you know how movies are, very formulaic. In the end, the bad guy starts to air his grievances, why he did this, why he did that. Now Pacino is talking, is saying everything, oh blah blah blah. The reason why he's doing it is he used so what happened was he was using James, right? James was supposed to be to help him steal. He manipulated James. The idea was for him to steal the Ice Nine, steal the Ice Nine, and hand it over to Burke, and Burke would sell it. Burke he'd gone rogue. He was going to sell it for $3 million, and they would now kill James. Eventually they'll kill James. He was a disgruntled CIA. He failed out of the. He wasn't a knock, right? He was just tricking him. He wasn't a knock. Burke decided to give him an entry-level job at the CIA, but he was not a knock. All that stuff about him telling him, oh, he's a knock. He was not a knock. He had planned it, staged the whole thing to make it seem like he was a disgruntled, failed CIA guy, and that's why he decided to steal the Ice Nine, which was very valuable, hand it over to Burke, and in the process, they'd kill him, right? They'd kill him, right? And then they'd have that script, the false narrative that okay, he was a disgruntled CIA guy. He went rogue. He became a mole, stole very valuable secrets, and was trying to sell it off to foreign agents, right? Foreign intelligence, and they killed him in the process. So anyway, eventually, the long and short is Burke revealed everything, his grievances, and then Layla had gone over to the CIA, and they were now pursuing them. But they were able to tail Clayton from his phone. He left his phone on, so that was how they were able to tail him. Eventually, they came. I'm not going to go into the details, of how Burke eventually was killed, right? All the while, they still had their suspicion on Burke, right? It was until, not on Burke, they still were suspecting Clayton, right? Because he'd been set up. Well, Burke, when they came, Clayton lied to Burke that, hey, because he had a computer. All the while Burke was talking, Clayton lied to him that, hey, the Spartacus program that he had created had fed the whole CIA Langley staff. He'd been speaking alive to CIA Langley, so everybody knew that he's gone rogue. That's Burke. He just made a live confession. So when they all arrived, when the CIA arrived, the cops, everybody arrived, Burke thought they'd come for him, so he's talking, spilling his guts about his 20s, that he's given the CIA 27 years, and he's just showing how disgruntled he is, and they hire these young MIT guy to replace them, blah blah blah, and they give them all these benefits, and it happens. There are many people like that. I worked in the Department of the Navy, Pentagon. I saw there are people like that. They're the old timers. They don't have the skill. So the new people, America's gotten prestigious, and they don't like when the new people who are they think have more prestigious education or whatever, and they put them on a different track as they were. These old timers are disgruntled. There are many of them in the Department of the Navy, civilian. I saw them. I came across them at the Pentagon. So that's what this guy was doing. He was talking about how frustrated he was, blah, blah, blah. You're replacing him with this MIT kid, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, eventually they kill him. That's the end. So when they kill him, though, they now take Clayton, the other trainer, Slane. He was like, hey, it's in the blood. It's like he lets him know his dad was really CIA. Because along the way, Burke, in his anger, he was really trying to bait him. Really, he was like just very caustic, letting him, he was being sarcastic about his dad. His dad wasn't really CIA. I just lied to him, blah blah blah. But in the end, Clayton finds out his dad was really CIA. It's a very interesting movie. I enjoyed it. So that's an explanation, right? That maybe David J. Rush, coming back to real life, right? David J. Rush's attorney might say, hey, look, it was all part of a program, right, to see if the CIA could be infiltrated by a mole, blah blah blah, and it was all part of a test, blah blah blah. So you see, it becomes this maze of this whole kaleidoscope of smoke and mirrors, smoke screen, decoys, what the CIA is known for: disinformation, false flags. Anyway, that's it. Now I'm going to do another video discussing the other movie. I think the whole David Rush thing can be explained, or it's a composite of two of these movies. First one, The Recruit, which I've just discussed. The other one is part of his phenomena can be explained through the lens of Our Man in Havana, written by Graham Greene. Graham Greene, I've done a video explaining how he was ex-British intelligence, right? He was ex-British intelligence. And so it's a satire. I'm actually reading the book right now, but it's a film I'm going to explain. The book, I'm reading the book, so I'm going to compare the book with the film much later on, but I'll do another video just discussing just the film. My name is Olurotimi Osha, and I will keep you posted. Thank you.